What's up, guys? This is episode 16. This is the talked about, I don't know, I think I talked about one, the eSportz one. Been in the works for a while. We finally got it done. It's the, got a couple of my friends here that have played games kind of like on a semi-professional level with, like, you know, they had their teams or whatever. And they had played with people who went on to go be, like, you know, big name people. Like Ska's got a guy that was on one of his teams that's in GSL right now, which is like the top StarCraft thing, so that kind of thing. So this was pretty good. I'm a big fan of this one. That was a lot of fun. They did it over the internet with like Discord, so I got to figure out how to do that perfectly. So it's not the best way of doing it, but I think it came out pretty good regardless. I think I figured it out for what I have, but there was a way to do it way better. And then what else? Oh yeah, and then there's a video we keep referencing of like Ska losing to two, like, people would send videos into two like StarCraft YouTube channels, and then they would like kind of comment over the game. So it's two of them he plays, and I reference those a few times, or we do, and I'm gonna put them in the description so you can see what those are. It's just him losing. One's really, but actually both are two like ridiculous reasons. Also, there will be no what do you call it? I'm not going to put anything in like the description for like time codes, because it's pretty much just one topic, and it's kind of like more formal, like almost like an interview type thing. So hopefully that doesn't sound ridiculous, because it was hard to not do. It's hard to kind of have a conversation when like everyone was like on the internet, and we're trying not to like step on each other's toes. So like once one person started, everyone kind of like backed off. So, but we're pretty much on topic the entire time. So I'll just kind of not do that, just because it's pretty much just eSportz. If that's not like kind of what you want to hear about, or if it's like way too much, then I get it. Like, it's fine. And I'm gonna keep using Persona music until someone says something. So enjoy that. But without further ado, enjoy. Hello and welcome to episode 16 of Your Brain and Tom, and this week is the eSportz one that I talked about briefly, and with me we have distinguished root gamer Airwave and Flick Ska of Husky, StarCraft, and Day 9 TV fame of him getting fucked on. So,
hi guys.
Hello.
This is Airwave here. Former distinguished root gamer.
So with this one, we're gonna try it with the magical power of the internet, and we're just gonna talk about eSportz and all that shit. So, Ska, you were saying you want to talk about the like what it means to be a good esport. So if you have anything you want to jump off on, feel free now.
Well, on your last podcast, you brought up that video of Day 9s. You're talking about like what is how in Counter-Strike, it's very like there's the winning condition is like one team has to plant the other bomb, the other team has to either stop them from planting the bomb or kill them all or defuse the bomb. Mm-hmm. It's very intuitive to sort of know how to do that, and the viewer understands it, the player understands it, and it creates like an environment that creates tension because it's a simple goal with like complex outcomes to like meet that goal. And I was reading an article. I was reading about how Overwatch is, you know, all these big companies are paying $20 million to get into the esports scene, right? Or get into the Overwatch League, and it's causing like teams to disband and whatnot. And I was wondering if Overwatch could be a good esport, because like you get into a fight and it's not like in Counter-Strike, maybe you have 2-on-1 and the guy has to get in there, kill both guys, defuse the bomb to win the game. Like, it's a win condition, it's simple, there's a lot of outcomes, but like it's intuitive for the viewer to understand. But in Overwatch, say like the win condition is like you're in a big fight and like the Mercy has to be killed and you have to stop them, and then like one other player you have to neutralize their ult, and it's not like as intuitive, and it's harder to follow. It's harder to build tension around like a game that doesn't have for the viewer, not for the actual player. For the player it's fun, but for the viewer it's hard to know what is going to tip the scale back and forth, right? So that's, I guess, what I want to talk about. Yeah. Thoughts?
No, I definitely think Overwatch is kind of weird. Like, it's because it like, and just the thing of like how Counter-Strike is the rounds, so you take someone out and then they're done. Like, you can kill a Mercy, and the fight goes on for 8 seconds, and then she's back, and then the fight continues because she resurrects everyone. So it's like it's kind of weird how like I don't know, and I think for like a viewer, it's just there's so many explosions and colorful things happening, and it's all like crazy, and the fact that each map is a little bit different might make it even harder for someone who's just watching. So it is weird that like a bunch of normal like actual like sports teams are buying into it.
Right. Like some teams in some situations want to like kill a certain DPS to win to neutralize the other team, or kill a Mercy, and it's like, is it the caster's responsibility to tell them? Does the caster even know? Like, how do you do that?
No, right, because that's weird. But I don't think that the Overwatch casters are like that great even right now, and I feel like they're not because there's so much going on with just management of abilities and stuff that like they're not gonna be able to know that at all times forever. Right,
and in like a real sport, like football, for example, you get into all these situations where say you get to 3rd down and 2, you understand that the win condition of that certain scenario is they need to pick up 2 yards, right? And like the audience sort of understands what the team needs to do intuitively, and it creates that tension. I don't see that in Overwatch.
Yeah. I it's weird just because like everyone and like just like the picks and how they can change. It seems like it's harder for a narrative to be built because like and with each map being so wildly different that it's more of a spectacle and like it's for fun, sure, but it doesn't seem like it's correct. It seems like I don't know. What do you think, Airwave?
I mean, I think that the idea of confusion is, at least in terms of Overwatch, is a little overblown. You can look at League and Dota as 2 prime examples of things that sort of like they survive despite or in spite of the complicated aspects of their games. Like, Dota is not an easy game to just be like, oh, this is what happens. It's intuitive. Because it's not an intuitive game. Besides the fact, like, you want to run to the other side of the map and kill buildings. But it still manages to be very successful, and it still manages to survive despite the intricacies of the game.
Do you think that is like the success of Dota is not coming from someone just watching on TV though? It's only people who have played the game and you have a base understanding of how MOBAs might work. Like it's not. I guess it's more like why do you think I guess my question in this is why do you think Overwatch is trying to reach out to like a mainstream audience when it's kind of it seems more like you should play it first to understand. Sure, it's on every platform available, but like it seems weird.
I just feel like that's what everyone's trying to do at this point, is that people are seeing money and they think, well, how do we get in? And I believe if Dota were around, or if Dota were just coming out during this current boom of trying to get things on TV and have big sponsorships that involve athletic companies, then you would see that.
Do you guys think... Oh, okay, go ahead.
So I sort of think the difference with Dota, at least, while it's not as intuitive as it could be, that you don't move as much in 3 dimensions as Overwatch, which adds like a whole new layer of, what's going on, how does this sort of work? And I feel like there's a lot of tension built around, and you can correct me because obviously I don't really play Dota and you are very good at Dota, but in Dota, you have sort of your champions on one side and you got your minions, you're trying to farm them, they're on the other side, and there's this like natural push and pull, or tug, I don't know, where it's like back and forth and they're near each other interacting, but like they're not trying to kill each other constantly. Like they occupy the same sort of space, but there's a tension there because they're not constantly fighting, right? They're constantly working around like different obstacles. Is that right?
Yeah. Just I guess I think one of the big problems with Dota, if we're looking at the guides of eSports and games of that nature, is that you can't really there isn't a time limit on it. Like when a game of Overwatch, you can basically guess how long it's going to be. The games that we're actually seeing on TV, especially, like those are games that are there's a set time limit that, you know, a Street Fighter best of 5 is not going to go longer than 10 minutes. A Smash 4 best of 5 isn't going to go longer than like 20 minutes. The best Dota matches I've ever seen have gone like 2 hours, and that's not really suitable for television.
Yeah, I think you're right about Smash. I think Smash could be the ultimate esport because it's like a 2D, you know, playing field. You go up, down, left, back, or up, down, left, and right, and like the win conditions super easy. Either like have more lives in your opponent at the end of the time, or knock them off the stage. And so like it's just about like angles and space and like how do you combo things and control the areas and how quick your, you know, reaction to things are. And that seems like a good model where I don't know if it can be replicated in Overwatch in any sort of way.
It also helps that the characters in Smash games are already identifiable. Like, absolutely. If you see Mario on screen beating things up, like, oh, it's Mario. If you are some rando and you see Overwatch, you're going to be like, what are these cowboys and robot ninjas?
And Minkies.
Well, everyone knows what Minkies are.
So, you kind of started that with the Smash being potential like ultimate esport. Like, what makes a esport competitive, and like why does like what part of it's what's important and what's not? Like, what are some games doing well to you, and then what do you like? Because both of you have succeeded in games that you've picked on, either StarCraft for Ska and Dota for Airwave. So like what do you see as the thing that is like what allows for success, and then what makes the game a success, like financially, and success for the player?
Yeah, I think you can split that up into two things, and Airwave might be able to speak to this better than I will. But as far as esports go, there's like two things. There's like the game and the balance and like how that plays out in the game and how fun that is and how fun it is for the viewer. And then like also how, you know, Valve or Blizzard or whoever promotes and controls the esport. Would you say, Airwave?
I would agree with that. And I would also think something that is pretty important is the ability to... what's the best way to explain this? The ability to replicate what you see on screen.
Oh yeah, that makes sense.
And what I mean by that is when you watch, like, one of the things I always thought was really cool about Dota, or before Dota for me, was Heroes of Newerth, and that was like the first game that I actually watched, was like seeing other players try creative skill builds, and then I could say that's awesome, and then I go into a match and I can do what they did. I can build the items that they built, and I might not be as effective as they were, but I can try these things out. And I think that's a really cool aspect of what helps an esport succeed.
Tom, building off what he said, when you watch Lucio players, do you pick things up for them, and do you pick things up on like the builds, or like not the builds, but like the strategy you see? Because like when I watch Overwatch, I pick a little bit up for how to play the game, but I don't like pick any like big overarching like ideas unless like someone explains it to me.
So yes and no. Like for a Lucio situation, for example, I would pick up like, oh, he used this path to get to this place a lot faster. Okay. Oh, you can hit this wall to that wall and it's quicker. Like DSP or whatever, Stanky. He's an awful like Lucio. But he's really fucking cool and flashy. So I'll watch him not to learn how to play the game, not to know how to get better, but to be like, oh, he can hit this to that wall, and he can get over here in 2 seconds. Awesome. But there's actually going on the duplication idea. I've read somewhere. I'll have to find it. That was for esports, the reason that they do so well for like viewers is when you understand even the basics of what you're watching, it triggers something in your brain because you can duplicate it so quickly and so easily. So like,
right.
Yeah, so like if I watch Rocket League occasionally. I don't really know what's going on. I don't really get excited, and I don't really click with it. But if I put on any first-person shooter or like a MOBA that I've played before or whatever, I get a little excited when I see someone hit a headshot or fucking do something cool, and like, oh, I'm gonna go try that or whatever. And like that's kind of where the MOBAs I feel like sprung up so strongly, because really what it is like, it's I want to use these abilities in this order. I'm going to go buy these items in this order. I'm going to go duplicate it. StarCraft, same way. I'm going to do this build order. I can copy this. But like, it's not, it's, I think like that's a really, really important part of it. And that's why I think games, like first person shooters would be easier, because you just see what's that guy shot that guy. Therefore that's how that game is played. So now so it's easier for someone unaffiliated with the game to be able to like, oh, that's how that game, this game's cool because of that. That guy just did something really cool because of that, because it's just so much more intuitive than like a MOBA or an RTS.
Right. I think in StarCraft, which is my main game, I was wondering, I know Blizzard sort of killed the game through their balance and their sort of butchering of the community, but the game right now, competitive-wise, is in its best state ever, but it's like nobody watches it anymore. And I wonder if that's because when it came out, it's easy for players to pick up on like basic strategies. And now that like the game's so in depth and built up that like I don't play anymore, and I can't tell what's going on, even though I played the game a ton, right? I can't pick up on like little things that they're doing as somebody who's played the game like a whole lot. And I wonder if there's like a fine line where between like casual, it's weird because you don't want the game to be too casual and you don't want the game to be too complicated and, geared toward the pros, because that makes it less fun to watch and understand. But like it needs to be at the same time. Like I don't know how you bridge that gap.
Yeah, it's definitely weird because like you're right. You don't want to you want to make it so that it's fun to watch, but and like everyone's gonna be different too. Like I prefer watching something where I know everything is like totally even, everything's cool. Like the new Quake game, Quake Champions. A lot of the pros are unhappy because of the way they changed it, the traditional combat thing or competitive mode from just amount of kills to rounds. And when it's round based, it's encouraging more camping and like certain characters, because it's the same like Overwatch thing, you get different characters and stuff like that. So their argument on the developer side is, oh, it's more fun to watch. You get to see you'd see more characters. You get to see, and they've been saying like, oh, anyone can win. That's the coolest part. Where now, like once I hear that as a viewer, as someone who wants to like enjoy something at its peak competitiveness, I'm less interested now, because it's like, oh, anyone can win. Like that doesn't mean that thing that guy just did took hours and hours of practice. It was like, so, but like, it's interesting. I'm not sure.
Right. And that's like actual sports where you don't want to watch something that's like total 100% measure skill. Like, I don't think it's that much fun to watch people sprint against each other, even though like there's like the best person always wins, right?
Right.
The fastest person wins. Whereas like hockey or football, you have all these like chance occurrences, right? And so like the chance and the changing situations and the complications where it might, instead of making it makes it like anyone can win, but like it doesn't only make it so anyone can win, I think that's important. No,
that makes sense. So like, do you think like having a team aspect of a game adds somewhat to that kind of chance-based atmosphere, or do you think do you think a good esports should be one-on-one, or the reason things are going in a team direction, do you think that's like for the best?
Everyone would probably speak to this more because StarCraft's not a team game, but it's weird because I really liked following single players in StarCraft. But teams you can like get behind and root for, and their lineups can change, and you can like remain loyal to the team, right? And it has more like marketability, and also there's more drama in a team. There's like team dynamics. There's more things to follow, and like you can follow them from game to game. So it seems like it's just structurally, because teams will like. They'll go from different, like teams will play different games. Like I root for Team Liquid in every game, basically, right? So, like one person's marketability will just end when they change games or whatever, but like a team's marketability will go on forever. So like they're structurally positioned to sort of take advantage of this. So it'll always be team focused, I think.
I just don't like, for me as a Dota player, there's very few scenarios where I'm like, yeah, I'm rooting for this team. It's always pretty much I'm rooting for this player who just so happens to be a part of this team. Like, that's where the team aspect is for me. It's just like, it's cool to root for a team. Like, I root for EG because I like EG. But EG also is the North American team that is the best North American players, and it's just sort of coincidental. Like, when they didn't have Arteezy, I rooted for them less, and now that they've had Arteezy again, I'm like, cool, EG, let's go.
Right. This seems like in like sports as well. Like, if Cam Newton was on the Panthers, like, I wouldn't care that much about the Panthers, right?
Yeah.
Right. So like, it's both. It's teams of the structure, and then the players. You also fall down too, right?
So like, so what would you think makes for the game to benefit? Like what as you a player, what are you looking for?
For a team competition, or
just in general? Like, what about it? It's like, I think, yeah, just like where, like, what about a game is like appealing to you? Like, how much of is the team actually matter as you a player, you as the player, or do you think that benefits the game at all, or just do you think you would rather do things that are like single, like one-on-one?
I think that in terms of like developmental esports growth, I think that it being a single person rather than a team is beneficial, because it allows you to follow one person, and one person's like meteoric rise or downfall isn't impacted by the people around them. It's just a thing that happens.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, that does make sense.
Yeah. I don't know, honestly. Like, as an individual, being able to just get on and grind constantly and get higher, like in, I don't know, I guess like Hearthstone or StarCraft, that's got an appeal to it. It's the sort of idea that, like, if I just try my best, I could be the best, right? Whereas team games, there's so many other factors, and it's so, I don't know, it's like one thing about team games versus individual games is, in StarCraft, if I did something wrong and I lost a game or I messed up, you can blame balance and whatnot, but like at its core, you have no one to blame but yourself.
Right, so that comes in with people blaming, like, this unit's broken or you're cheating or whatever. It gets because no one wants to. No one thinks they are the reason they lost.
Yeah, but in StarCraft, you're kind of forced to look at that. You're kind of forced to look at the fact that if you mess up, then you're bad. And I don't know if, like, we as a culture are good at dealing with that. Just complete failure.
Right. So you think
it's definitely less fun.
Solo esports will help us as a society?
I don't know if it'll have any big impacts, because I don't think people learn from that. But yeah, I mean, I'm just saying it's painful, and it might even be more like, it's in team games. Either you can learn to just deal with the criticism of your teammates, which hurts more than like criticisms of someone calling you, I don't know, dick for winning. Yeah, exactly. For just, being a bad, like, opponent. But like, when your teammate tells you you're terrible, you can either blame him or you can internalize it. Like, it's hard, There's
a lot of steps involved in it.
Yeah, it's a lot of. Yeah, it's like that whole, like, I'm playing a bunch of Overwatch for so long, and just seeing like how much an entire game can change just because one person asks someone else to change a character. And like, now, like, not only do you feel bad for losing, and now you feel bad because now someone else is shouting at you, and now, oh, you also lost, and everything. Now your day's ruined.
Yeah, you have to manage, especially in solo queue, like, manage the emotions of your teammates. It's tough.
Yeah. So I don't dislike team games, but I always like, I've only kind of dabbled in team games, and it seems to be more. It's far more emotional. I mean, I guess that's not true, because even in StarCraft, when I played, you would, I mean, all I did was 4-gate. So, you just 4-gate someone, they go, oh, you fucking bitch, and they get all mad, and they, So, like, I guess it's just, like, I just feel better, because it's like, oh, I did the thing that made him mad. Hooray for me.
Pause the game, send them a question mark.
So, what would you say, like, what are the elements of a esport that you would like, are drawn to most?
So I'll start off. I mentioned it before. Replication is something that I really like. I think it having a high skill ceiling is really important. I think that Ska can sort of speak to like the difficulty of when the skill ceiling's too high with StarCraft, especially. But I think the idea of having a high skill ceiling is really good for people who want to be competitive. And I think that having the combination of like skill ceiling versus the mechanics of the game and also going against other people. So it's multifaceted. It's not just like, oh, I am a more technically solid player than this guy that determines things. You want something that adds onto it.
Yeah, and to build, I agree with everything you said. And to build on that, with the high skill ceiling, as far as it being a good esport is concerned, I think it's important to be able to translate that high skill ceiling into like so the viewer can understand it, sort of. Because say if I watch a Korean team running dive against somebody else and they just win, like, I mean, I think that's great, but it's hard for me to understand how they won. But if I'm watching StarCraft and somebody has like a Biomarine Marauder army and they send it towards a big Zerg army and it's on creep, and while they're fighting, they're dropping in 2 locations, and then the Banelings and the Zerglings come forward and the Marines split perfectly. Like, I can see how amazing that is. Like, I can see the skill it takes. It's not just like in Overwatch. I'm sure there's like a really good Zarya player that like always hits what they need to be hitting, always bubbles so they need to hit bubble, always bubble themselves and protect other people on their team, and it's always great. But it's really hard for me to understand why that's amazing. But if I see someone like microing at 3 fronts at once, like, that's pretty clear that they're outplaying the other player, and like you can tell, you can visualize how amazing it is. And I think that's really important.
Yeah, I definitely think that's like, yeah, because like in like StarCraft, like it is so much clearer when someone just, even though like even the things might be going on so much, you can just tell, like, well, that guy won because he's just throwing shit at him, and like he's not losing anything while that guy loses the whole thing. Do you guys think that type of like is that like on the job of the casters to be able to explain these things? So like when you're watching a Korean dive team go and win the game because they dove the team, killed everything, it was over. Do we need the casters to be knowledgeable enough to explain that? Do we even really need that whole thing? Should the game be able to be like understandable without like that? Should that just be kind of like a personality, like fun thing?
It should be. I think you should be able to intuit what's going on, but like the casters should definitely do their best to explain. But there's also this like counter thing of the casters constantly hyping up everything that's going on, and that kind of ruins the game as well. So it's weird.
I think it's a really difficult balance between finding casters and the like who are knowledgeable but also personable. Like, and I hate constantly making esports analogous to sports, but like, there are some commentators who are great because they're knowledgeable. There are some commentators that are great because they're personalities. And within esports, I feel like it's important to find a balance of people who can explain things to new people, explain things to veterans, and also be entertaining. And it's a really difficult balance.
Yeah, like you need to like put in that gem for like the experienced players to understand how amazing something that is, and explain things to like the lower level people. I think Artosis does the best job at that, at least in StarCraft. He hypes up things and he really is into analyzing everything. And, I feel like he does a good job.
I also think that for Artosis, like, his hype is genuine. Like, he's fucking...
Yes, he loves StarCraft.
Yeah, I just was watching one of the fucking VODs, and he was saying that he fucking walked down the aisle to the StarCraft 1 Terran theme. Like, he just fucking loves StarCraft.
Yes. The genuine thing is tough because some people like just want to be famous, but some people love the game, and some people like know a lot about the game but hate the game. So it's a weird.
It's oh god. But I think like having like a tastosis, so these guys who just love everything they're doing and just they get super excited and they're fun, just like you feel like just hanging out. Definitely makes like, because I don't know like anything about upper level StarCraft. Like I said, all I did was fucking 4Gate for like months. and got to gold. So I fucking didn't accomplish anything. But I can watch, like, Beyond have the dumbest fucking Reaper control ever and watch him kill 30 Zerglings with 6 Reapers and go, I don't know how the fuck this happened, but fucking he's amazing.
Yeah, if you can play the game just a little bit and know like how hard the shit they're doing is, like that goes a long way, I think, for visuals or for watchability. So
on the idea of watchability, so Evo just happened this weekend, and it had I believe Smash was on Disney XD, and then Street Fighter was on ESPN. Do you think
ESPN2?
ESPN2, okay. And Dota has been on ESPN2 as well. Do you think that like esports needs to be on TV? Like, do you think it should just live online, viewer-wise?
I think it's beneficial for its growth in the coming years, especially the next like 5 to 10 years, for it to be on TV. Mm-hmm. I don't think it's a necessity. Like, I don't know how many people are actually watching CSGO and Street Fighter when it's on like TBS randomly. But I do think it's important for like fostering the acceptance, the mainstream acceptance of esports, to have it on these platforms where people can just casually watch it. And I think it's cool that like there are going to be kids who are going to grow up being like, oh yeah, I saw Smash on TV. Like, that's not something we were ever exposed to. And I think that's where it's really important with the older crowd to be like, this is fine. And for the younger crowd who are going to grow up and instead of like maybe watching cartoons or watching football or something like that, they're going to be watching Smash or Counter-Strike or Street Fighter because it's what's on TV.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. I don't have too many opinions on whether we need esports on TV, but it can't hurt. But I actually, one of my Battle Room people I know, he's sort of making a name for himself now. Smalley Lubu is Chef Lubu is his online name. He goes like weekly. He gives like an esports update on the sports radio station in Atlanta on Sundays, and like I think that sort of stuff is just amazing, just to normalize it, right?
That's actually pretty sick. You both use the word normalized. Does that like? Do you think that's really important for like the growth of this whole thing?
Yeah,
I definitely do. Especially when you're trying to make things more corporate, when you want to bring in the bigger sponsors, having the ability to like just make it a thing where it's not this sort of niche culture is really important.
Right. You don't want to like Donald Trump said, the hackers were 400 pound people sitting in their living room. We don't want like, people to, it's, you tell your, okay. So a while ago I was playing a lot of StarCraft. Obviously I was living at home back then. My parents hated it. And, they thought it was like this weird thing that I was doing where I was wasting my life away, which probably right to be, totally fair, but still there's like this stigma that I felt was unfairly attached to it. And now my mom doesn't know anything about video games. She hates video games. She sent me a text message the other day and she was like, hey, my coworker's son is, playing Halo competitive. They're making like big bucks. Like, this is a real thing, like sort of legitimizing me playing games a while ago. So yeah, I think it matters. Like if parents understand and you want to take a year or two off of school to like pursue your dreams or whatever, being an esports hero, then that can only be beautiful to see.
I guess that makes sense, having to like convince the parents like, oh, this is actually a real thing. Because there's no way my parents have been like, oh yeah, this is totally a thing you can do, even though I was never at any point close to being able to do something like this.
Yeah.
So I guess my next question would be just like where do you think this should go? Like, I constantly am seeing stuff, with like these bigger now that the Overwatch League has kind of started up, and we have these like real sports people, buying like the guy who owns the Patriots will own the Boston Overwatch team, and the guy who owns the Mets will own the New York City team. So like, do you think that's kind of where it needs to go? Like, I've always kind of believed that like esports would benefit if it was like regional. So like you would have like how Malcolm was saying that like, you know, the N8 players are EG. So now like even if I don't really understand Dota as like at the same level as him, I can go, well, they're the guys from my country. I'll root for them or whatever. Do you think it needs to like kind of lean into that a little more?
I'm kind of worried about that, but yeah, I think it needs to be regional. That's definitely true. That'd be great. I think Seoul and the Koreans have benefited extraordinarily for having like, you know, one city that like they can put all their team houses in and everyone, you know, is together in one area. Like I think that's really important. It'd be cool if we could have, if our local scenes could be, I don't know, like there could be a, you know, Texas, like TESPA, like that's great organization. Like having regional organizations seems like it would grow the sport hugely. But as far as big corporate teams like that go, I'm kind of suspect that people are going to throw a bunch of money into this. They're just going to lose a ton of money and they'll abandon it, and it'll be 20 more years before anyone wants to support the scene again. Like, I think esports is something that, like, it kind of grows. Like, traditional sports, like football, is still going to be here in 10 years. It's been here for the last 100 years. But will Overwatch 2 be the game by then? You know, like how does that work? Because games evolve, graphics get better, you know, game engines get better. People want to change the game, and like, you know, they want to market new games. So investing huge sums of money into something that's like designed to be, you know, have a 7 to 10 year lifespan. I don't know if that's good for the scene.
Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to. So I'm gonna start with regionalization. I don't think it's necessary, but I do think it's positive. It gives people a natural affinity towards a group, a player, a team. Like, being North American, I generally support North American teams or players, especially if I don't follow the game very much. I mean, once you follow it, you're like, oh, this guy's really cool. I like this. But you don't always have that. So I think regionalizing things is good, although not necessary. I think it would be good for like a casual player base. I think Overwatch is a good example because it's not like, I do think it's a very popular game, and that's a good way of having, like, you know, Joe Schmo who has Overwatch on his Xbox interested in a team because he's like, oh, cool, that team's in New York City. I live in New York City. That's my team now. I sort of lost myself on that tangent though.
Big money being in esports.
Big money? I don't know. I'm just going to say I think it's good. I think it has the potential to make things grow too quickly and the infrastructure won't be able to support it. But I also think it's good and important. And give us money. Yeah, I like money.
So on the regional thing, I was thinking while he was speaking that in team games, it's extremely hard to be regional because, you know, at a local level, you can't, if you're just, I'm a Counter-Strike player and I'm, you know, top maybe 10%. I'm okay, but I'm not great. But all of the players I form relationships with are, you know, all up and down the East Coast. So it's hard for us to, you know, really get together in real life and do things. But single player games like the fighting game community, the Smash community, StarCraft, you can really localize those games. I think like it's a testament that, what year did Melee come out?
2006, I think.
No, it's like 16 years old.
Oh, was it really? Okay.
Yeah, it's like 16 years old, and like it was doing its best like 2 years ago or something. It's a testament to how if you build local communities around these games that like they'll last for a real long time. So I don't know, I'm all about localization, but it seems like it can only work if the people you're playing with are only yourself. Like you can only play a 1v1 game. You can only count on yourself to be there because it's just too hard in team games to, you know, bring a team to the LAN, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, then like at the low to mid level, traveling for events and stuff is like really hard because like if you're a really like shitty CS team and you're like, oh, we're gonna go to fucking this event and go play, you're like, well, why would 4 of us be paying this money to just go lose? Like, what? So you can convince yourself if it's just you.
Yeah, and like we played with Zongo, and he was the best out of us, and he lived in Canada, so we couldn't play with him in real life.
Yeah, like he's exactly, and that's the other thing too is like, you know, you could build little groups of friends that, you know, you like fucking, you know, your wedding is going to be the fucking weirdest thing because there's going to be a bunch of internet people that like I'm going to all meet for the first time.
Absolutely. Like our StarCraft team had a guy from London, a Korean, a guy from Argentina, and then a bunch of people from different parts of Canada and the United States. So it's hard to do that, you know?
But that's also really cool that it allows for that kind of stuff.
It's weird. The limitations that the Melee scene had, the Smash scene has, like, really helped it build local communities. And I think that's really, really cool. Like, you guys always talk about, you know, upstate Smash, like Syracuse and Buffalo, and you guys go to all these different cities up there. That's the coolest thing ever.
I mean, it's definitely kind of like has to be that way because of, you know, it's, you know, not a real, I mean, you can now, but, you know, for years, not an online game. You had to go to someone physically, touch their hand, and then start the game. Like, you can't, like, you could not just, you know, I can't just grind. I can't just jump on. If I want to grind, like, you know, in a healthy way, I'm going to grow and be a better player. I got to find another person that will sit down and you know, abuse something I do or something like that.
Don't LAN sort of serve a similar purpose though? Like I know LAN centers aren't as big of a thing anymore, but I like to think that they had a similar purpose back in the day.
No, I definitely think they do have similar purpose, but they just not, like, them just being not really a thing, like, is kind of, you know, I don't think it's as a big thing for like PC gaming as it was back in, like, you know, the 90s.
Yeah, like Battle and Brew was our local venue, and they held monthly tournaments, and that did wonders for a StarCraft scene in Atlanta. We had one of the best scenes, I think, at least on the East Coast, maybe in the whole country, even though we weren't the greatest players ever. But like we all get together once a month, had a tournament. But the scenes aren't, one of the things is when you're limited to having to play offline, you really are forced to meet people in real life and like make those connections. I think in the original StarCraft Brood War, so now this isn't a problem, but in the beginning of Brood War, there was huge latency. And so the only way to play, you know, at like a super high level with zero latency was to actually be like hooked up like over like, you know, LAN, like stick an Ethernet cord into each other's computers and play a game. And that created, I think, a lot of relationships. And it's weird because we have all this technology and all these ways to socialize over the internet, but in team games I think it helps, but in one-on-one games it seems like you don't get that personal interaction that you would otherwise, because like I don't care, I don't want to go to like a live place and meet people, even though, you know, if I think about it, I kind of do, you know.
Right.
Nerds are reclusive.
You're going, like, it's only gonna benefit you, but you're not gonna want to. Like, you're gonna be like, well, I can just go on my computer and make that same, you know, in quotes, same type of effect, you know, just by turning it on. Yeah, like I can just get online and play, you know, Overwatch with Tom and Malcolm. Why would I go to my fucking local LAN thing and try to play Overwatch there, you know? Right, yeah, and then that's also, there's like the you know, there's time where it's like, oh, this only happens at this time, at this week. It's like, oh, well, I'm busy now. I guess I'm not going to play this video game this week. So like, it does have like some like, you know, drawbacks and stuff. Yeah, absolutely. And like, you got to go and meet people, and like, typically, I don't. It's weird, you know. I don't want to force myself to do that.
People are scary.
I know, right?
All right, so another question I had. This is like, you mentioned this briefly like way back, and I'm just gonna bring it back. Like, do you think that sequels for competitive games are like the worst? Like, are they really bad? Because like the, you know, Brood War to StarCraft 2 or fucking just like the different versions of Counter-Strike, whatever. Do you think, or the different versions of Smash, even like even something as close to those, is that a bad thing that like people are trying to update games and stuff like that? Like should companies be putting money into something that's going to just stop and then they're going to start promoting the next thing? Or like, is there a way to have an infrastructure that keeps a community going but also kind of moves everyone to the same stuff? Like, what is the negative? Is there a positive and negative to like sequels?
I don't know. You know, it's weird because at least a couple years ago, the biggest games over the last, you know, 6 or 7 years have been there's StarCraft and LoL and Dota and CS:GO, and then Smash, right? Those are the biggest eSports.
Yeah.
I'm probably discounting some of the like Marvel vs. Capcom, but that even falls into what I'm about to say, which is that we all grew up playing the prequels to those games, right?
Yeah.
Like I played Smash 64, I played Brood War. I didn't play original Dota, but some fighting games. I played 1.6 Counter-Strike, and I don't know. It seems like it might kill a community, but like it kind of brings the next generation in because they've been primed on the earlier prequels, and once they get to like prime gaming age from like 16 to 24 or whatever, that like they're the core of the community. I don't know. It seems like if you're a little kid right now just goofing off on Overwatch, maybe in 10 years when Overwatch 2 comes out and it's a huge esport, like they're going to have like a generation prime to know what's going on and know what to do. So I don't know. I think it's a good thing overall.
I think it depends on how the sequel is. I think I think StarCraft 2 is better than Brood War. I'm saying that as someone who played a ton of Brood War as a kid. And
someone's going to light you on fire for that.
I'm totally okay with that. People are willing to look at that type of stuff with nostalgia colored glasses, and
absolutely,
like Brood War is fine. It's not that great. I'm sorry. But like to get back to the point I was planning on making, Street Fighter V people hate, and it's still growing and is receiving a lot of mainstream attention as an esport, which I think is kind of interesting because it's just people hating. Like, it's a super unpopular game, and it's still doing well.
Yeah, that game is not, like, I know pros are not happy, and then also, like, a lot of the people who just casually play it were not happy because shit just wasn't in the game. So, like, that is a weird one that it's kind of being positioned to be, like, the big game right now, but, like, everyone seems to be unhappy with it.
Yeah, so I think that's an interesting game, an interesting case. I think that it's, like, I think it's weird that a game doesn't necessarily have to be good for it to continue to grow as long as it has a legacy. And that's sort of what Street Fighter V is showing. I don't think that's a good precedent, and I don't necessarily think that's going to work everywhere, but it does sort of seem like brand management and understanding is a little more important than the actual quality of the game.
It sort of like depends on how faithful they stay. I know like StarCraft 2, they did a good job trying to like build on it to be a competitive game. But I'm thinking like, and I have played very little Smash 4 before I say this, but do you think that, so there was this big Melee community. I mean, Brawl came out, but it wasn't, nearly as big of an esport. And then Nintendo hypes up Melee super intensely. And then all of a sudden, they pull out Smash 4, and it's like they hyped up the community to sort of like co-opt the community, and then they destroyed it with Smash 4. I don't know. You think like people can use sequels to bad ends?
I think in that situation, yes. I think they kind of did that in a really fucking weird way, where they were like, oh, hey, look, everyone, Melee's kind of cool, and then Smash 4 comes out, and now they're not really even supporting Smash 4 as much, so, like, a lot of these people who dropped Project M or whatever, or, they're not, now Nintendo doesn't have, like, as much, like, of their hand in Smash 4, and so it's kind of like they're going to back out because they have other things they got to put marketing money into. They can't just keep like hammering down this one thing because they're not a Riot, they're not a Blizzard where all they do is make games that do this. So they're going to go off and do other things. They're going to go off and change things. They're not going to keep supporting that game. So that is weird. Because
Nintendo is weird though. Like Nintendo is such a weird case to talk about because they're so goddamn strange.
Yeah, it's true. They definitely don't do anything that any other gaming company would potentially do. Any developer would do.
Cough, Nintendo Classic.
Well, that was for like selling things so that it was a buffer room for if the Switch failed. It's a whole stupid thing.
But it printed money.
I know it did, but they didn't think they would. So they were being stupid. But I don't know. You're more into the whole like you are on the like tournament organizing end of like Smash. Has it been weird now that like Nintendo is kind of backing out of stuff and like
so even in our local scene, I think it's weird because one of the guys who like rents out spaces was very into being all in on Nintendo, and now he's suddenly not. I think on the national level, it's been strange just because people expected a lot from Nintendo, and then Nintendo was like, hey, about that, no thank you. Our new game is out, so we're done trying to support whatever we said we were going to support. So once again, it's weird with Nintendo, but all that being said, what's the best way to put this? In terms of TOs, I think there was a subset of organizers who expected Nintendo's support to continue, and it didn't. And then a lot of those TOs were sort of stuck with their hands in their pocket, just being like, well, what do we do now? But there were also more forward-thinking people who sort of, I guess, like, knew what Nintendo was, and as a result, weren't really surprised when support was dropped.
Yeah, right, because they've never been. Yeah.
Right, it's Nintendo.
Yeah, that's like, it just seems, and like I know some of the like Hungrybox a couple of weeks ago was quoting like that we don't deserve that company. They're talking about Nintendo, like stop like sucking up to them. We started grassroots, we can stay grassroots. Which I mean for Smash especially, like that has 100% been like it to its benefit. Like they should have like almost never gone in that like corporate direction. Pretend product dem that doesn't exist, all that kind of stuff. Because like it is a lot of just the people putting it together, people keeping it together, that kind of thing. Which is, back to what we were saying with like the regional stuff, the keeping it like local and all that kind of stuff.
Well, Smash, and that's the benefit of grassroots, it's just going to stay alive. It's fine. It doesn't need other people right now. And like, I think there was a little bit of a problem where like people both expected things from Nintendo, but also that you got people who are joining for the wrong reasons.
Oh, right. Yeah, I see. Like people getting in on it for like, oh, we can be buddy.
They're like, this is gonna be huge. Let's join in. Let's make this. I haven't been involved in Smash, but it looks cool. Let's hop on this gravy train.
Yeah, that seems to be. I mean, I guess that's kind of the same thing with this Overwatch League. These like I mean, they were charging way too much, and only billionaires could really buy into it. But it's like these people are like, hey, look, this is kind of like so. I'd be interesting what happens with the Overwatch League with like the actual big people and if like Blizzard supports that well, because if they have already fucked up like StarCraft and they don't really do anything else. Like WoW kind of has some stuff going on, but like all I've really noticed they've done is they've fixed the fucking UI for the viewers, so it's actually like you don't have to be having played hundreds and hundreds of hours to understand what's going on.
And that's a good thing. Like hopefully
definitely
places will take that lead and use it as this is a way for us to improve now.
So I guess my other question to you would be, like, how happy, like, should the top end be? Like, for a game like Overwatch, for example, where it has millions of people playing at all different skill levels, and people don't even play it competitively. Like, should the game be designed and balanced for that top 10%, or should it be,
yes.
like, okay, yes?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Do you have any more on that, or is that it?
I mean, like, if you're going to be a competitive game and it's not balanced at the top, like it's not going to be a competitive game. And then like you're done there. It's the casual people like aren't going to want to play it once they hit a certain level. But like if you keep things both fun to play, like interesting to play, and you have like an extremely balanced top level, like the extremely high skill ceiling, like you're going to always have growth. You're going to always have people wanting to push themselves more. It's just, there's no point if it's not balanced from the top. Like, I don't like, it's like, it sucks that there are different metas at different levels. And like, it's easier to, I don't know. I disagree. Cause I think that Mercy is a hard player, but if you don't think Mercy is a hard player to play or character to play, like that, it's like, it's super easy to play. Or like, for example, like Fair Mercy at our level is pretty good. But like it's not broken at the top levels, but like it kind of sucks to play against it at our level. But I wouldn't want them to change it and nerf a character at the highest level just because we can't play it. I don't know. It just it takes like when I don't know. Because it's hard to say like it should be balanced for like the mid level players, should be balanced for the newbies, should be balanced for the top level players. And if like that's the choice, I think the top level, the highest level is the only way you can go.
I guess that makes sense because if you do, like if you like, pharmacy is destroying the mid level, like there's room. And it's not destroying the top level. Like there's a way for you can learn, you can grow, you can do something where like eventually it's gonna stop being a problem. What do you think about like things like the widow mine? Like I'm like Tristan was saying that like how like that's just like abusive for lower level people, but at top level, it's used, but it's not game changing as it would be like, because you're not going to know how to pull a unit. You're not going to be able, if you have a widow mine drop in your mineral line, you're probably losing every fucking drone. Like there's no way if you're like a low level, not paying attention to certain stuff like that. So is it good to have something like a widow mine that will like maybe dominate like a lower bracket, maybe make the percentages of what like the win rate for Terran way higher or something like that? Is that a problem?
Well, I think first of all, you definitely watching too many like repeat watches of me losing on Husky Starcraft Widow Mines. Secondly, I mean like if you're losing to Widow Mine drops all the time, and maybe it's tearing up and messing up the statistics and ranks down there. But like if you wanna surpass that, like you have a goal. You can get better at defending Widow Mine drops, and it's hard, but like when you do it, you're just gonna shoot way up in the ranks. And so it's a positive thing. It's a positive incentive.
Yeah, because if you're doing that, then you have it where because that makes sense. Because
if you're the guy that can defend Widow Mine drops in gold, you're not gonna be gold for very long.
Right, yeah, and then that guy probably only knows how to do Widow Mine drops because StarCraft's hard. There's a million fucking things you need to worry about. So if you just master one thing and just push yourself through the ranks, you're just gonna go up.
Totes. If you want to go on.
Oh no, go ahead.
If you were looking for something to talk about, like what makes a good pro gamer, like that's something that
that was my next question actually. Yeah. So go ahead on that.
So like when we did FLC, I spent a whole lot of time thinking about like what makes players good, because like there were Jenks who was good, but sometimes he get tilted in his head. Tristan was really good, but like he would reach a level and start tilting. But like other players on the team that like got grandmasters, they got good in different ways, like how did they push past the barriers that like I couldn't get to? Like there was like a mental block ahead of my head where I couldn't get to Grandmaster rank. I was like Grandmaster MR here and there, but never actually Grandmaster rank.
Right,
like,
right.
Always hovering at 300 rank, like 300 North America rank. So like what makes somebody good? What is it like? And I think the answer to that is like some people can like both hold like two realities in their head at the same time. There's the reality where like they completely understand, they have full confidence in like what they understand in the game, so they can execute during the game. And then like at the same time think that like they don't trust anything they know, and they're like super down to rework everything and try new things and try new ideas. And like it's like to me fucking impossible to hold those two worlds in my head, right? Like I know things about the game, I'm certain about them, and I don't know things about the game, but like I can't both know something and be willing to change what I know and what like I know will win at the same time. And like it just seems impossible.
No, it definitely is really hard, because we were talking about this a little bit the other day with like you're saying, like Zongo is just going, if he wants to, he'll just be amazing at Overwatch. Like he just sits down and is like, I'm just gonna learn this game. He's gonna take off because his his natural ability is going to just like somehow he's going to be able to top like us way faster than like he'll get to our highest ranks faster than we got to them, throughout all of our work. But I definitely think there's a lot to like keeping that idea of like always wanting to switch. I forget what's that book, the competitor book, where he's talking, there's the newbie, the
Playing to win,
yeah, where they talk about like the different the two different mindsets of a player. So like I don't know, Malcolm, what have you experienced with that? Because you've gone pretty high up with like Dota and stuff like that.
So from what I've seen, at least in Dota, it's a lot of physical limitations. For me, that was what really made it where I had to stop playing. I just wasn't able to compete with people physically. My reaction times weren't as good. My hand-eye coordination wasn't good. I don't know if it would just be like hand-eye coordination, but being able to make the small micro clicks, I was poor at. And you see like the best players are young guys with great hand-eye coordination, great reaction time. And it's basically you can be taught the rest, as sort of strange as that sounds. But also, I agree with what Scott's saying, where there is that sort of ability to view things in an abstract manner and comparing what you see and what is said and being able to judge for yourself what is correct, either going with or against what's common opinion. Like that's so I mentioned Arteezy before. To anyone who doesn't know, Arteezy is a North American Dota player. He's from Canada. And he was heralded as the next big thing at age like 15. And North American Dota, to summarize a very, very, very long history, was a joke for 10 to 15 years of just like guys who were pub stars who weren't actually that good. They couldn't compete at competitive levels. And he was the like first guy who really changed that belief that people had. So as a like 15-year-old, he was incredibly technically proficient. He was very smart. He did things well. His reaction times are absurd. But what really made him stand out is that he viewed the game differently than all these people who had been playing for 10 years. He only had been playing for like 3 or 4 years at that point. And he grew up playing as an 11-year-old who just said, I am going to grind 1v1 mid matchups with the best players I can find, and did that for years. And after that, developed his own play style, where up until that point, the mid role was basically you are a tempo creator, you try to help your team win other lanes. And he said, fuck that. I'm going to farm more than every person on the map, and that is how mid should be played. I am mid, I am the carry. And he changed the way that the game was played for a year and a half while everyone was trying to catch up with his line of thinking. And that's what I think is so important for being successful as an esport, for being successful at that top echelon of video games, is being able to compare what other people say and what you see and what you believe and put it all together into a philosophy that suits your goals.
Yeah, so like you're saying that he understood the sort of meta and like the sort of ideas everybody else had, but like could understand that and have like faith in his own like strategies to like know that he could push himself farther than everybody else. Like, I don't know. Like what he believed and what other people believed were completely different, and he basically just said, I'm going to prove that I'm right. And go on.
He was. I mean, there's many different ways to do it, but what he did was so different and so much better than what everyone else was doing that he sort of just left everyone in the dust.
So like on a smaller scale, in FLC, so Peter is my friend. He's Cardris, and he got Grandmasters. I think he was one of our better players. Like overall, like he always was good, and he's super stubborn guy if you know him. But I was wondering like what made him good. Like he would do really well in Clan Wars. He held Grandmasters for a long period of time. He played, just as much as I did. We played probably the same amount, but he was clearly better than me. And so, I'd be like, hey, Peter, like I think that, you can cut a Phoenix there and do this, right? And he'd be like, no, I'm absolutely not gonna do that. It's a terrible idea. But like, I'd watch him play, and after he shit on my ideas, he'd be using them. Like, like he could shit on other people's ideas, and hate them and not want to do it, but like still be like, all right, I actually have to test this out and see if it works. Like that idea, like that, or you think that what someone else says is wrong, but like you're not too stubborn to actually pick it up in the long run. Like other people, what people say sticks in your head. Like that seems important. Yeah,
it's you want to be firm in your beliefs but pliable towards others, and that's something that you can like that applies for real life, but I think it's especially true in video games, is being able to understand that you think, to have conviction in yourself and in your thought process and your beliefs, but also like be willing to listen to the advice of others.
And it's like, So like when we play Overwatch, there was one time where I sort of thought I knew what the role of Winston was, and turns out I absolutely did not. And like Tom was like, "No, you're not supposed to do. You're just jumping in and dying." And it's like, yeah, I guess you're right. Like, it's hard because you think you know how things should be played, or like, okay, so currently in Overwatch the meta is like the 2-2-2, like that's the standard, 2 healers. You want like probably like a main healer like Mercy and then like Lucio or Zen, right? I would prefer Lucio in every situation. And 2 tanks right now. We got divey tanks like Diva, Zarya, Winston, and then 2 good DPSs, right? And so like the Sombra meta is like it changes everything, and like I my immediate reaction is like, this is bad, this is terrible, but like I know deep down I should be like, I should learn how to play like this, we should learn how to play like in a different style if I want to like move up, but it's so hard to change from like what I think should be the standard,
That makes sense, because if you have your idea of what this should be, and like what is, because like the Sombra thing's weird, because for how long has she been out? Like fucking 6 months, and now people are starting to play her. Like people thought she was literally unusable, like she was the worst thing ever, and then some couple people were like, well, maybe not, and then they just stuck with it. But I mean, that if that goes through, and like I know right now it's like the top level is, she's only really noticed like 3,000 plus ranking. She's not trickling down as much, but eventually she's going to, and people are going to figure stuff out that makes it easier to like work with. So it will ultimately kind of affect you, but I definitely think your like second, like your reflection on that is better, where it's like I should just learn how to deal with that or learn how to do it. As opposed to like, because like that I always saw that in StarCraft, or some you'd forgate someone because that's what you do, and they're like, oh well, fuck you could just forgate and win. It's like, well, you could too. Like the options are there for you, and if you just like apply them instead of like sticking to like, no, I'm a Zerg player, I always play Zerg, I don't know what you're talking about, like how could I do anything else than this? So I guess being like that flexible, like pliable, willing to change, willing to just be like, well, maybe I'm just wrong. And I guess, and also something, it's like probably harder to like pick up in StarCraft, but maybe in like Counter-Strike or Overwatch, when you die, you did the wrong thing. Like and sure, like there is parts where like you might be making the wrong call, but you're just better than someone technically, so you're just going to like you're gonna kill them faster, you're gonna beat them faster. But if you like die, like what you're saying with the Winston thing, like you were just jumping in and dying, and it's like that's just it's like a weird thing to be like, oh right, like maybe I'm not doing like the right thing. Like if I can Counter-Strike, I'll like stand in the wrong spot, get shot. I'm like, well, I shouldn't have just been standing in the middle of the fucking area here, just looking for people.
Yeah, and it's harder in like big concept way. Like it's easy. It's not easy at all in any manner, but like when you're by yourself and you die, like you can understand that. It's like, oh, I died, I did something wrong, how do I fix that? But like in big strategy things, it's like you might have died as so. I'm playing with like a bunch of bad people in Overwatch recently.
Hey,
not y'all.
I haven't
like other
played in a while.
people that are like newbies, and like I'll just die, and like I guess I should be better, but it makes me really appreciate how when we all play together, that like I can take chances and open myself up to like vulnerabilities to like gain advantages in different areas because like everybody around you is good. So like what I'm saying is in team games, it's not just you. I mean, like you should be aware of you because you're the only person you can change. But like sometimes we can play like amazingly, and like other three people we can play with like just aren't clicking,
Right.
So it's hard.
There is definitely like a vibe to it. Like you're always like, oh god, I fucking love when you play Lucio because like you can just rely on me being where I need to be to take care of you or whatever. But like that's definitely a thing especially in Overwatch with like everyone's weird abilities and everything like that, where it's going to play into like you're gonna die to something and you're like, well, if the Ana just shot me, I would have been all right. And like there's a lot of that where it's like just human error that you have no control over, and that's going to kind of fuck you up and fuck you in a different way that you weren't really prepared for something. But there's definitely like there are times when I'm playing like Lucio and like maybe I'll go in a little bit further trying to speed boost someone out and they die, and it's just like, well, I'm just gonna leave. Like this is a bad, or like my team just made a bunch of bad decisions. I'll just wait over here. You can all die. I'll be back later. So it's like, like I'm not like the best Overwatch player ever, but like my thought process always is like, how can I survive? Because if I'm dead, I'm not healing anyone. Therefore, I'm not doing my job.
Yeah, absolutely.
So like I don't know if like
it's
okay, good.
Like in so if I'm playing Zarya and you're playing Lucio, and like I'll take an engagement and I'll get like full charge because everyone will like target me, and I know I'm just like I intuitively know that like I don't make like a decision, but like I'll overextend myself a little bit because I know that you're gonna be there to like heal me and not switch to speed when I'm like about to die, right? And like I don't know, it's hard to communicate like how that all works, you know?
Right, because we've played so much together that it's like at this point it's almost expected. It's like, well, that's just how the Lucio handles the situation, and you know,
Yeah.
it's like, and like the same thing on my end with like I play with another Zarya. It's like you just didn't stand in front of me and block the shot or something, or you just you
Bubble you.
Yeah, you didn't bubble me while I was getting charged into a wall. Like you just let me die, and it's like. It's those things that are weird, you know, where it's just like, oh, right, I'm not playing with these people. This is not the way I'm used to things going on. Because now it's like your style of Zarya is now affected by my style of Lucio, which is weird. But like now you're going to make decisions that if you solo queue are not going to also always end up the same way.
Yeah, and that was especially true with my Pharah with your Lucio, and then they changed how Lucio worked.
Oh, right, yeah.
Healing, and like I had to change my entire playstyle up because it was completely different.
Yeah, that was like when they changed that Lucio, like I think it's only for the benefit, but like it was like the radius change and all that stuff has been super weird.
Yeah, like I could fall back, and I knew I was like slowly gaining health over time, so if I didn't take any burst damage I was probably gonna survive. And then like all of a sudden it was like, oh, I gotta fly down there, or I have to have a mercy, or it changed the whole playstyle up.
Yeah, that entire character became a different thing once they fucking did that. Like he is 100% different now, but like
So much fun.
He's in a very good way. I think he benefits a lot from it. But like there were a lot of times where I would do an old Lucio thing. I was like, all right, this is just not gonna how it works anymore. I guess my other question is like, how do you, like you were saying before we got on this tangent, you were saying like how RTZ just picked. He was like, this is correct. I'm gonna prove that's correct. Like when do you give up on like maybe you make the wrong call? Maybe we're still living through 2 months ago and we think Sombra's garbage still. Like when do we realize that like even though that one's kind of weird, but like when do you realize you kind of are making the wrong call? Like, oh, I'm actually putting a lot of effort into this when it's probably not the most beneficial.
I mean, you just beat your head into a wall enough and you'll eventually stop, I think. Even if you don't necessarily, like, it's hard to say because there are definitely times where you want to prove that you're right, but you can't always prove that you're right.
Yeah, and like to add on that, if we're playing together as a team, and like I have sort of an off kilter thing I want to try, right? Like, all right, guys, I'm gonna play Orisa for these few rounds. Like, I don't feel comfortable doing it because I don't want to let y'all down, So if like it fucks up a little bit, even though that like I'm not executing well enough because this is like a weird strategy, it's just those sort of barriers where like I don't want to like tilt the team by like doing something stupid constantly. So I don't know.
Right, that makes sense. Like, because yeah, it's like especially with team games, like you're saying, like it's so it's there, especially in Overwatch. For my last few times I was playing Overwatch, I really felt like I was not playing the other 6 people. I was trying to make sure my 5 didn't kill each other. Like it's just getting like it was so much like not, or so much just trying to like control emotions, like you were saying, like just making sure. So that's like it's like a fucking blessing when like all of us can actually sit down and play together, because it's just like, oh, even if they get kind of upset, we'll just step away and come back, and it won't be the end of the world. It won't be some kid just screaming because someone politely asked him to switch off Hanzo or something.
Yes, exactly. But even with us, like we had that one game where we were getting like rolled by Orisa Reinhardt Bastion comp on
Mhm.
Route 66.
Oh yeah, that went bad.
Yeah, I remember that.
And like I went Bastion at the end, and like it's still like I don't know if I should do it again, even though I think it's the right choice, because like I don't want to tilt the rest of the team.
Right, yeah. And that's a weird thing too, is like that was working, but like that doesn't like maybe it just worked against that team. Like a lot of times in Counter-Strike what I find is like it's like, oh well, this guy is dumb and he keeps doing the same thing. I'm just gonna kill him over and over again here. Like he's gonna stand in the spot and I'll just know he's gonna be there and I'll take care of him first. But then I play another game right after that on the same map and he's not sitting in the same spot. So now it's like, oh, this route I kept taking, and sure, I was just like seeing results in the last game. Just literally the next game, it's like, oh, I'm not. There are no like this is not going well. I'm actually gonna be like I'm getting messed up because like so like I don't know. It's like that's why I don't think I understand of how you know that an idea is worth putting the time in. Where it's like, oh, maybe this idea is working from bronze to gold, and now it's getting fucking stomped. Now it's terrible. Or is it like
Day9 used to say that. So like this is easier to make a StarCraft analogy. It's harder to translate to other games. But when you learn a strategy, the strategy is like a hill, right? So like you keep working on the strategy you're trying to work on. You keep trying to do the thing you're trying to work on. But like eventually you're going to reach the peak of that hill, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you have to go down and try to get up. Like once you get to the top of the hill, you're going to see like, oh, there's nowhere higher to go. Like this brought me to, I don't know, Gold League. And now like people are better. So I have to find a new strategy, climb a taller hill, you know? And so like each strategy is a hill that you have to climb. You hit the top. And I think in 1v1 games that makes sense. In team games though, it's hard because every time you get on to the new hill, the new learning a new strategy, like you're gonna lose a bunch of games because you don't know what you're doing. Right? You're like,
right, yeah. And
like
also like a team game like Overwatch, it's not just the one hill. There's also all these other little hills of other people try. So like if someone picks a Lucio and you play Zarya and they don't do the same thing, they're like gonna have to do a different. It's gonna be a different. You have a different skill thing you have to learn now. Like you have to figure out you have to adjust on the fly and stuff like that. So that makes sense. But like, how also do you know like that it's not just like so? The thing Day9 said. How are you certain that what you did wasn't like you're failing on execution? So like say like the 4-gate, for example, I'm going to 4-gate until gold and now I'm losing for 4-gating. Am I just not 4-gating fast enough, or am I and sure, like 4-gate head was plenty recorded and I could have saw like what time should have been, but like what like when do you realize like, oh, it's not my execution, it's just this hill is the top?
Yeah, how do you know you're at the top of the hill?
Yeah.
I don't know, man.
I think it's intuition. I think it's relying and trusting people to tell you. Like, ideally, once you get to a level, there's going to be people that you can trust to explain things to you and to be able to argue points with you and for you. And that's that's a good thing, and that's a thing that you're probably going to rely on. It's very difficult to climb a hill like that alone, I guess.
I feel like with your building on that like, so I started playing StarCraft and I would do like a 1-base 6-gate gateway all in, right? Like right when I started in like Bronze League or something. And that took me as far as it would take me, right? And so I had a higher ranked person being like, hey, John, like, that's not efficient. You should do a 4-gate, right? So I started 4-gating and 3-gating. And that took me to a place. But eventually I got up, so it was like super high and like trying difficult to execute strategies. And people would be like, John, these aren't working. You're losing. But like, it wasn't because the strategies were bad. It was because I sucked at executing them. Like, it's hard. Like, do I keep trying to practice until I'm good at it? Like, or do I switch off to something easier? I don't know.
Yeah, so that's always like a weird question when you're like especially in that where it's like, oh, you're losing. So like on paper, this is not succeeding. But if you can get it down, then you're gonna see more success potentially. So like that is a really and I guess StarCraft's a very unique game because there's so much like evidence of like perfect executions of that thing you're trying to do. So like like if you're like, oh, I want a 4 gate. All right, well, I know my timing attack should be at like 4 minutes, whatever that was to get to the ramp. Like that's my timing. I should be at the ramp for this map, whatever. So like that is something that's kind of like it's just that's kind of interesting where it's like you don't know how much time to waste because it looks like you're losing, it looks like you're wasting your time, but like how do you like if you just make it happen, maybe you just start winning even more. So I could see that being like weird. Yeah,
and StarCraft had the benefit of at least if you're trying to do a build where you could practice it in like against a computer, right? Whereas like you want to learn a good Genji, you can't practice that against a computer, right? You got to play a ton of competitive matches, and like you got to like if I want to play Genji, like I got to play quick play matches, which everyone picks Genji, and so I can't get any practice in, or I have to play competitive matches and lose because I'm terrible at Genji. Like how do I learn? You know? Right? Yeah, because in a team game like that, you are gonna need to know how like the nuances of like other people, like what decisions like you right. A robot is not going to be able to tell you like. It's not going to be able to punish you the same way. It's not going to be able to, maybe get lucky. Human error in either direction is not going to pull together. And then that's the other thing too is like Overwatch doesn't have like a practice mode. Like quick play it seems to be their intention for that. But like every time I play quick play, I play fucking Tracer and Widowmaker. Like I don't play characters I would ever fucking play in competitive because that's what quick play's for. I'm just going to play this silly character. And everyone else is playing silly characters. Right, yeah, so no one's taking it really seriously. Everyone's just kind of fucking around. So you're not learning like, oh, Genji works really well in these comps and with these other characters to benefit him in this way and that way. So, you're learning like, theory stuff. I mean, granted, you are going to learn mechanics, and then maybe those mechanics can maybe make you passable once you actually reach competitive. But you're right, you kind of like... Overwatch and I guess most like team games like that are weird, especially for like trying to learn like this one thing.
So I think that's where the benefit of in-house leagues, ESL and Face It, if we're talking about Counter-Strike, these sort of intermediary programs, groups are really important because they allow you to practice things at a higher level that you wouldn't otherwise get to do.
Right, that's what the importance of like scrimming is with like pro teams and stuff. Like that's why they want to do that all the time.
Scrimming at the pro level, but I'm talking about the mid-level player who wants to improve, things like that. Like that's where it's that's where I view that as very important. Yeah, like in StarCraft, there'd be like Day 9 or Husky StarCraft channels where just like a bunch of like gold and platinum players being able to play against each other and like scrimming in that way. But like they need to implement something like a clan system where you can like have 40 people that we have hit in different games and like randoms together, and we can only play with people that we know. Like I don't know. That
would actually be pretty cool if Overwatch had some kind of clan system. We could just do like clan wars within client. That'd be kind of sick, actually.
Like we were all like we had 40 people and 12 of us happen to be on. We could just do in-house games like that. That would be really, really cool.
They have talked about adding like clan stuff, right? But probably is it going to be like that? Like awesome.
I don't know. They added clan stuff in StarCraft after like a year or 2 years, and we were like, and they kept saying like the technology's just not there yet, and everybody was like, but this is 2012. What? I don't know why it's not in Overwatch. It blows my fucking mind.
Yeah, I don't want to. Yeah, especially exactly like. Of all the things where you're like, oh, I'm gonna release a game in 2016, we'll do everything that we know is in a game since fucking 2016. But no, they're just gonna leave that out and just.
It doesn't seem like it'd be that hard to program a clan system. Like,
it's just at the very least, just have like an optional like chat window.
Yeah, or like a way to develop communities. Like, if you want to make this big esport that people care about, like you got to give them the tools to do that.
Right. Yeah, you got to bring the people together. And honestly, it would probably be super easy just by like the fucking when you hit O and you're looking at all your social stuff. It was just an additional tab, and then you could just have this tab of people you hung out with.
I haven't met any random that I've become friends with in Overwatch, whereas like that's not true for any other game.
That's a good point, actually. Yeah, does that? I mean, I know people from Overwatch, but they're like other people's friends. It was never like, oh, hey, here's this random person. And like, I have like, re-queued up with random people and stuff. And like, they added that feature that lets you, keep your team or whatever. But like, that never goes well. That's like,
Yeah, it's never enough.
It's basically like you play until you lose one game and then everyone just leaves.
Yeah. The clan system would be like everybody's in like like you get on and you're automatically in this chat channel and everyone else is there that you're in a group with, and like suddenly you have friendships, like that's what they need.
Right, yeah, because that would super help that. Like that would.
We have the I don't know what we don't have a team name, guys.
You're right.
$5 blowjob.
A $5 blowjob? And that's our Counter-Strike.
$5 blowjob.
$5 blowjob.
All right, well, let's start wrapping up. We've been here for an hour and a half, so it seems sizable. But would you guys like to plug anything on your end? If you have anything that you'd want to do, and then we'll wrap this up. Fuck around PUBG maybe, and then sleep. So feel free to do what you need.
Follow me on Twitter at Airwave says. I don't tweet. I just want to have numbers next to my name.
That's all that's important. That's the most important thing. Ska, do you want people to follow you on Twitter as well?
My Twitter is at FLC Johnny Ska. I mostly just retweet political things, so
getting Twitter fights.
Yeah, Twitter arguments with Donald Trump trolls. So if you're into that sort of thing,
it's really very entertaining. I highly recommend it.
All right. Well, with that, I guess this will finally wrap us up on that eSportz episode. I hope we can do some more of this later once I figure out even more of all this experimental internet talk stuff. So,
I'm telling you, you need an episode just devoted to me and Malcolm arguing about Israel and Palestine.
I want that so bad. Like I want to I'll mediate that fucking that debate. Just fucking I'll turn it on, chime in occasionally. You guys can have that conversation. I want that real bad.
It'll damage our friendships. We might want to wait a while until we've sort of built up the friendship capital to do that with.
We'll make that post-wedding.
Probably correct.
All right, well, with that, that'll be this one. So, love and kisses.